What fuels your soul when life feels heavy, chaotic, or lost? Welcome to ZenLight 8, where we dive deep into timeless Stoic wisdom to uncover the fire within you. In today's video, inspired by Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy, we'll explore practical ways to ignite your inner strength, find unshakable peace, and live with purpose, no matter what storms come your way. Let's unlock the power of your soul together. Hit that play button and let's get started. The essence of the soul, the Stoic heart of who you are. Deep within each of us burns a quiet fire, a presence that hums beneath the noise of daily life, a pulse that feels both ancient and intensely personal. The Stoics, those timeless philosophers of resilience, called this the psyche, the soul. To them, it wasn't some ethereal ghost floating above our choices. It was the very core of our reason, our will, our capacity to rise above chaos and shape a life of meaning. It's the part of you that whispers, "Keep going." When the world feels heavy, the part that steadies your hand when doubt creeps in. The Stoics believed the soul thrives not by chance but through deliberate cultivation, through the daily practice of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These aren't just lofty ideals. They're the tools we wield to forge a life that feels whole, grounded, and unshakable. Today, let's explore the essence of the soul, not as a distant concept but as a living force you can nurture, a compass you can trust, and a strength you can build, no matter where you stand in life. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life. Maybe you're there now. The path ahead is foggy, and the weight of decisions presses hard on your chest. You've got bills piling up, a job that drains more than it gives, or maybe a dream you've buried under years of not yet. In moments like these, the soul isn't just a poetic idea, it's your anchor. The Stoics saw the soul as the seat of reason, the place where clarity cuts through confusion. It's not about having all the answers. It's about trusting your ability to ask the right questions. Think of a single mother working 2 jobs, her days a blur of exhaustion. Yet she pauses each night to read to her kids, to remind them they're loved. That's her soul at work. Not in grand gestures, but in the quiet choice to show up with purpose. Her reason tells her what matters most, and her will carries her through. That's the Stoic essence. A soul that doesn't bend under pressure but grows stronger because of it. The Stoics didn't stop at reason, though. They believed the soul is woven into your breath, your choices, the way you move through the world. It's not passive. It's the active principle of life itself. The force that shapes your character when you choose kindness over anger, patience over haste. Picture a firefighter rushing into a burning building, heart pounding, yet steady in their resolve. That's not just courage. It's the soul asserting itself, saying, "This is who I am." The Stoics taught that the soul grows through virtues, wisdom to see clearly, courage to act boldly, justice to treat others fairly, and temperance to stay balanced. These aren't abstract. They're the scaffolding of a life well lived. When you forgive a friend who let you down, when you bite your tongue instead of snapping back, when you keep showing up for your goals even when no one notices, that's your soul flexing its muscles, growing more resilient with every choice. Let's take it further. The soul, in Stoic terms, isn't just personal, it's connected to something larger. It's like a spark of the divine, a piece of the universe's endless rhythm. This isn't about religion. It's about recognizing that your ability to think, to choose, to create meaning ties you to the world in a profound way. Think of an artist pouring their heart into a painting, not for fame but because it feels true. Or a teacher who stays late to help a struggling student, not for praise but because it's right. These acts ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never see. The Stoics believed that when you nurture your soul, you're not just helping yourself. You're aligning with the natural order, contributing to the greater good. It's a reminder that even in our smallest moments, we're part of something vast. But here's where it gets real. The soul doesn't grow in comfort. It thrives in effort, in the gritty moments when you'd rather give up but don't. I think of my friend Sarah, who lost her job during a recession. She could have spiraled into despair, plenty would have. Instead, she woke up each day, polished her resume, took online courses, and kept applying, even after dozens of rejections. She told me once, "It wasn't about the job. It was about proving to myself I could keep going. That's the soul's work. Not waiting for life to be easy, but choosing to be strong when it's not. The Stoics would nod in approval, seeing her daily discipline as a testament to the psyche's power. A power that doesn't rely on outcomes, but on the resolve to act with virtue. This idea of the soul as a living, trainable force flips the script on how we often see ourselves. In modern life, we're bombarded with messages to find ourselves or chase fleeting happiness. Scroll through social media, and it's all about quick fixes. New diets, new gadgets, new hacks to be your best self. But the Stoics cut through that noise. They'd say your best self isn't found in a product or a fleeting high. It's built through choices that align with your deepest values. It's not about feeling good all the time. It's about living well even when it's hard. Imagine waking up each morning and asking, how can I be wiser today? Braver? Kinder? That's not a checklist, it's a way of life. It's the soul stretching toward its potential. Not because it's perfect, but because it's alive. Consider the story of John, a veteran I met at a community center. After years in the military, he struggled to find his place back home. Nightmares kept him up, and the world felt like it had moved on without him. But John started volunteering, first at a shelter, then mentoring kids. He didn't have all the answers, but he showed up. He told me, helping others gave me a reason to keep going. It reminded me I still had something to give. That's the soul's essence in action. Reason guiding you to purpose, while turning pain into service. Virtues shaping a life that matters. John wasn't chasing happiness. He was building meaning, and that's what kept his fire burning. The beauty of the Stoic view is that it's not reserved for philosophers or heroes. It's for you right now in the mess of your everyday life. Whether you're navigating a tough breakup, grinding through a dead-end job, or just trying to figure out who you want to be, your soul is there, ready to be nurtured. It's in the moment you pause before reacting, the choice to keep learning after a failure, the quiet pride of doing what's right when no one's watching. These aren't just actions, they're declarations of who you are. They're the threads that weave your soul into something enduring, something that can weather any storm. This essence of the soul, reason, will, virtue, isn't a destination. It's a practice. It's a daily commitment to live with clarity, to act with integrity, to grow through challenges. And as we cultivate this inner fire, we begin to see that the soul's strength doesn't just carry us through life. It shapes the way we meet the world. But how do we keep this fire burning when doubts creep in or chaos threatens to dim its light? That's where reason steps in as the engine, guiding us back to center with steady, deliberate clarity. Reason, the engine of the soul. There's a moment we've all felt, when life's noise crescendos, when deadlines loom, emotions swirl, or the weight of uncertainty pins us down. In that chaos, it's easy to lose ourselves, to react instead of respond, to let the storm sweep us away. But the Stoics, those ancient architects of inner strength, saw a different path. They believed the soul finds its power not in escaping the chaos, but in navigating it with reason. A clear, deliberate force that acts like an engine, propelling us forward when everything else pulls us back. Reason isn't just intelligence. It's wisdom honed through practice, a lighthouse cutting through the fog of doubt, fear, and distraction. It's the voice that asks, what's true here? What matters most? And guides us back to our center. Let's explore how reason fuels the soul, not as a cold, detached tool, but as a vibrant, living spark that empowers us to live with clarity, purpose, and unshakable calm, no matter what life throws our way. The Stoics called reason logos, the divine spark that sets us apart from instinct-driven creatures. It's what lets us pause when anger flares, reflect when sorrow weighs heavy, or choose patience when the world demands haste. Think of a time you were stuck in traffic, late for something important, your frustration boiling over. The impulse is to honk, to curse, to let the moment consume you. But then you take a breath. You remind yourself, this isn't the end of the world. I can't control the cars, but I can control how I react. That's reason at work. Not suppressing your feelings, but redirecting them. Sifting the essential from the fleeting. It's not about thinking harder. It's about thinking better, with intention and clarity. The soul thrives on this kind of discernment, like a garden that blooms when watered with care rather than flooded with chaos. Picture a young entrepreneur named Maya, who poured her heart into a startup only to watch it falter. Investors pulled out, her team was stretched thin, and self-doubt crept in like a thief in the night. Most would have crumbled under the pressure, but Maya did something different. Each morning, she sat with a notebook, writing down what she could control, her effort, her attitude, her next step, and let go of what she couldn't. She asked herself, is this fear real, or am I projecting? What's the wisest move right now? That practice of reason didn't erase the hardship, but it gave her a rudder. Her startup didn't survive, but Maya did, stronger, clearer, and ready for her next chapter. Her soul didn't just endure. It grew, fueled by the steady engine of deliberate thought. Reason isn't a one-time fix. It's a muscle we train daily. The Stoics knew that our minds can be battlegrounds, cluttered with worries, regrets, or shiny distractions. Left unchecked, these thoughts tangle the soul, pulling us away from what's true. But when we practice inner stillness, whether through journaling, a quiet walk, or a moment of deep breathing, we create space for reason to breathe. It's like clearing a desk before starting important work. I think of my friend Alex, a nurse who works grueling shifts in an ER. The stress could easily overwhelm him, but he's found a ritual. During breaks, he steps outside, closes his eyes, and asks, "What's real right now? What's my next right move?" That pause, that act of questioning, grounds him. It's not meditation in a serene studio. It's reason in the thick of life, keeping his soul steady when the world spins fast. This practice isn't about perfection. The Stoics weren't chasing flawless logic. They were after clarity that serves virtue. Reason helps us see what aligns with our deepest values and what's just noise. Imagine you're faced with a tough choice. Say, whether to speak up about something unfair at work. Your heart races. Fear whispers you'll be judged. But reason steps in. Is staying silent true to who I am? Will speaking up serve justice? Even if it's hard. That inner dialogue isn't cold calculation. It's the soul asserting its power, choosing principle over comfort. It's what lets us act with integrity, not because it's easy but because it's right. Every time we lean on reason to guide us, we're not just solving a problem, we're sculpting a stronger, clearer version of ourselves. Reason also protects the soul from the traps we set for ourselves. We're wired to over-identify with passing emotions. Anger becomes, "I'm furious." Sadness becomes, "I'm broken." But the Stoics remind us, emotions aren't truth, they're signals. Reason lets us step back and ask, is this feeling based on reality, or am I spinning a story? This isn't about denying what we feel, it's about understanding it. When we do, fear can spark caution, anger can fuel change, and sorrow can deepen gratitude. Reason turns raw emotion into refined energy, like a blacksmith shaping iron into a blade. It's the difference between being tossed by life's waves and learning to surf them with grace. In our modern world, reason is more vital than ever. We're bombarded with information. Ads, opinions, endless notifications vying for our attention. It's easy to react impulsively, to let the loudest voice dictate our choices. But a soul powered by reason doesn't just follow the crowd. It questions, reflects, and chooses deliberately. It's the parent who pauses before yelling at their kid, the student who keeps studying despite setbacks, the friend who listens deeply instead of rushing to fix. These moments aren't flashy, but they're profound. They're the soul claiming its sovereignty, saying, "I decide who I am, not the chaos around me." And in that choice lies a quiet, radiant power. A power that grows every time we choose clarity over confusion, truth over distraction. Yet reason alone isn't enough to sustain the soul. It's the engine, yes, but an engine needs fuel to run. That fuel comes from virtue, the deliberate, courageous choices that give reason its direction and the soul its strength. Let's turn now to the heart of Stoic living, where virtues like courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance transform our inner spark into a steady, enduring flame. Virtue, the fuel of the soul. If reason is the engine that powers the soul, virtue is the fuel that keeps it burning bright. To the Stoics, virtue wasn't a dusty ideal reserved for philosophers. It was the lifeblood of a meaningful existence, the raw material that shapes a soul into something resilient, radiant, and free. They named for core virtues: courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance. Not as abstract goals, but as practical tools, sharpened daily through action, restraint, and reflection. These virtues aren't just qualities. They're lifelines, offering stability when life shakes us, clarity when confusion looms, and purpose when doubt creeps in. They're the foundation of a life that doesn't just survive but thrives, rooted in inner freedom rather than external applause. Let's dive into how virtue fuels the soul, not as a distant dream but as a living practice, one that transforms our struggles into strength and our choices into character. Courage, the first Stoic virtue, is often misunderstood. It's not just charging into danger or speaking boldly. It's the resolve to act rightly, even when fear whispers to hold back. Think of Rosa, a single mom I know, who left a toxic relationship despite having nowhere to go. Her hands trembled as she packed her bags, her mind racing with what-ifs. But she chose to walk away because staying betrayed her worth. That's courage, not fearless, but faithful to her soul's truth. The Stoics would see her choice as fuel, strengthening her inner fire. Courage shows up in quieter moments, too, like admitting you're wrong, chasing a dream others mock, or showing up for therapy when stigma says, tough it out. Each act of bravery, big or small, carves depth into the soul, making it harder to shake. Justice, the second virtue, is the soul's compass for how we treat others. It's not about grand gestures but daily fairness. Listening deeply, giving credit where it's due, or standing up for what's right, even when it costs you. I think of Jamal, a coworker who noticed his team overlooked a quiet colleague's ideas. Instead of staying silent, he spoke up, ensuring her voice was heard. No one clapped, but Jamal's soul grew stronger, grounded in the quiet conviction of doing right. Justice fuels the soul by connecting us to others, reminding us that our strength isn't solitary. It's woven into the fabric of community. When we act justly, we're not just helping others. We're affirming our own integrity, building a foundation that no storm can erode. Wisdom, the third virtue, is reason's older sibling, less about knowing facts and more about understanding life's rhythms. It's the ability to see what's fleeting and what endures, to choose long-term growth over short-term gain. Consider Emily, a college student who turned down a high-paying internship to volunteer abroad, teaching kids in a rural village. Her friends called it foolish, but Emily saw something deeper, a chance to learn, to give, to grow. Wisdom guided her to value experience over status, and years later, she carries that clarity like a torch. Wisdom fuels the soul by aligning our choices with truth, helping us navigate life's twists with grace rather than regret. It's the voice that says, "This matters," when the world screams, "Chase that instead." Temperance, the final virtue, is the art of balance, knowing when to say yes and when to say no. It's not about deprivation but discernment, choosing what strengthens us over what seduces us. Picture Mark, a chef who loved late-night drinks with his crew, but noticed they left him foggy and drained. He started saying no, swapping bar stools for early runs, and found his creativity soaring. Temperance didn't dim his joy, it amplified it, channeling his energy into what truly fed his soul. The Stoics saw temperance as freedom, not restriction, a way to master impulses rather than be mastered by them. Every time we choose restraint, we're not just avoiding harm, we're investing in a clearer, stronger self. These virtues aren't separate. They interweave, each strengthening the others. Courage without justice becomes reckless. Justice without wisdom becomes rigid. Wisdom without temperance becomes hollow. Temperance without courage becomes timid. Together, they form a fuel that burns steady, not flashy. A quiet power that doesn't need validation to shine. I've seen this in my neighbor, Mrs. Carter, who at 70 still tends her community garden, shares her harvest with struggling families, and mentors teens with a patience that humbles me. She doesn't preach virtue. She lives it, and her soul radiates a calm that feels like home. Her life shows what the Stoics knew. Virtue isn't about perfection. It's about persistence, about choosing right action over easy reaction, day after day. Living virtuously isn't always glamorous. It's the email you send to apologize, the workout you do when you're exhausted, the truth you tell when a lie would be simpler. These choices don't make headlines, but they build a soul that's unshakable. The Stoics believe this inner strength is true freedom, not freedom from struggle, but freedom to choose who you are within it. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself," and every virtuous act is a step toward that mastery. When you act with courage, you're not just facing fear, you're declaring, "I am not my doubts." When you choose justice, you're not just helping others, you're anchoring your own worth. Wisdom and temperance refine your vision and steady your steps, ensuring your soul doesn't just burn but endures. In our fast-paced world, virtue can feel like a lost art. We're taught to chase likes, wealth, or status, but the Stoics remind us, those fade. Virtue doesn't. It's the fuel that keeps your soul alight when praise runs dry, when plans crumble, when life tests your core. It's what lets you look in the mirror and know you've lived true, not perfect, but true. And that truth becomes a reservoir of strength, a quiet confidence that no external force can steal. Whether you're navigating a career pivot, mending a broken relationship, or just trying to be a better person, virtue is your fuel, a renewable energy that grows with every choice you make. But even a soul fueled by virtue needs more than persistence to thrive. It needs endurance, the kind of grit that turns setbacks into stepping stones and pain into purpose. Let's explore how staying the course, through every unnoticed effort and quiet victory, builds a soul that doesn't just survive but transforms. Endurance, the inner energy of the soul. In a world obsessed with instant wins, likes, promotions, viral moments, it's easy to believe that strength comes from crossing finish lines. But the Stoics, those quiet giants of resilience, saw a deeper truth. True power isn't born in victory but in endurance. It's the slow, steady fire that burns within when you keep going, not because the path is clear, but because you refuse to quit. Endurance isn't about flashy triumphs. It's about the grit to rise each morning, face the same challenges, and choose principle over surrender. It's the energy that transforms difficulties into growth, not by avoiding them, but by walking through them with purpose. Let's explore how endurance fuels the soul, not as a fleeting spark, but as a renewable force that shapes who we are, one persistent step at a time. The Stoics understood that life isn't a sprint. It's a marathon with no finish line in sight. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body," and that single line captures the heart of their philosophy. Strength isn't measured by how many battles you win, but by how many you show up for. Think of a teacher named David, who spent years in a struggling school district, teaching kids who faced poverty, trauma, and doubt. Some days, his lessons fell flat. Some years, he wondered if he made a difference. But David kept showing up, grading papers late, finding new ways to connect, believing in his students even when they didn't believe in themselves. No one threw him a parade, but over time, he saw graduates return to thank him, their lives changed by his quiet persistence. That's endurance. Not a single heroic act, but 1,000 small choices to keep going, each one forging a soul that's tougher than steel. Endurance doesn't shout, it whispers. It's in the moments no one sees. The writer who revises a manuscript after 10 rejections, the parent who works 2 jobs to keep the lights on, the recovering addict who chooses sobriety one day at a time. These aren't glamorous stories, but they're sacred ones. The Stoics knew that every unnoticed effort, every refusal to give up, adds a brick to the foundation of your character. I think of my cousin Lena, who trained for a half marathon despite never being athletic. She wasn't fast, and her knees ached, but she laced up her shoes every dawn, running through rain and self-doubt. Crossing the finish line wasn't the real victory. Her soul grew stronger with every step she took when quitting felt easier. Endurance isn't about the spotlight. It's about the silent commitment to become someone you're proud of. This kind of strength isn't built in comfort, it's forged in struggle. The The Stoics didn't see hardship as a detour but as the road itself. When we expect life to be smooth, we're caught off guard by its sharp turns. Layoffs, heartbreak, failures. But when we embrace difficulty as a forge, we greet it with steadier eyes. Consider Maria, a small business owner whose shop nearly closed during a recession. Sales plummeted, and stress kept her awake. But she didn't fold. She renegotiated leases, pivoted to online sales, and leaned on her community. Her business survived, but more importantly, Maria did, transformed by the grit she didn't know she had. The Stoics would say her soul didn't just endure. It evolved, shaped by every choice to persist when surrender was tempting. Endurance also teaches us that progress isn't always visible. We live in a culture that celebrates quick results, but the Stoics valued the long game. They knew that real change, whether in your habits, your mindset, or your soul, happens slowly, like water carving stone. Every time you choose to learn from a mistake, to forgive when it stings, to try again when you've failed, you're reshaping yourself. It's not dramatic, but it's profound. I've seen this in my friend Tom, who spent years rebuilding trust with his family after a rough divorce. He didn't expect overnight miracles. He showed up consistently, listened patiently, and owned his flaws. Over time, those quiet efforts mended bonds he thought were lost. His soul grew not because he won, but because he endured, choosing love over pride, day after day. What makes endurance so powerful is its independence from outcomes. The Stoics didn't tie their strength to applause or rewards. They found it in the act of continuing. This frees us from the trap of chasing external validation. Whether you're studying for a degree, healing from grief, or building a dream, endurance says, keep going, not for the world's approval, but for your own integrity. It's the runner who trains through winter, the artist who paints through doubt, the volunteer who serves without fanfare. These acts don't always yield trophies, but they build a soul that's rich with purpose. A soul that knows its worth doesn't hinge on what others see. In our fast-moving world, endurance can feel countercultural. We're sold shortcuts and instant fixes, but the Stoics remind us, there's no hack for a strong soul. It's built through repetition, through showing up when it's hard, through choosing what's right over what's easy. Every time you persist, you're not just surviving, you're sculpting a version of yourself that can face anything. It's a quiet victory, the kind that doesn't need a stage but lights your path forward. And as we cultivate this inner energy, we begin to see that endurance isn't just about outlasting storms. It's about growing through them, rooted in a strength that nothing can shake. But even the most enduring soul faces moments of turbulence, when emotions surge and threaten to pull us off course. That's where mastery over our feelings comes in. Not to silence them, but to channel them into clarity and purpose. Emotional mastery, the soul's protective shell. Emotions are like waves. They can lift us up or drag us under, depending on how we meet them. In a world that often feels like a storm, it's tempting to either drown in our feelings or build walls against them. But the Stoics offered a wiser way, emotional mastery, where feelings aren't suppressed but guided by reason, transformed from chaos into clarity. They didn't seek to be unfeeling robots, far from it. They believed emotions are natural, powerful, but never the boss. By changing how we perceive them, we can turn anger into resolve, fear into curiosity, sorrow into gratitude. This isn't about control for control's sake. It's about protecting the soul, keeping it calm and steady at the center of life's tempests. Let's explore how emotional mastery strengthens us, not by numbing our hearts, but by teaching us to feel deeply and act wisely. The Stoics saw emotions as messengers, not masters. Anger flares when we feel wronged, fear spikes when we face the unknown, sadness lingers when we lose something dear. But these aren't truths, they're reactions, shaped by our judgments. Imagine you're passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. The sting is real, resentment bubbles, self-doubt creeps in. Your first instinct might be to lash out or spiral. But the Stoics would pause and ask, what's driving this? Is this about my worth or someone else's choice? That question shifts everything. Maybe the rejection isn't a verdict on you. It's a chance to grow, to pivot, to prove your resilience. By reframing the story, you don't erase the emotion. You redirect it, like a river finding a new path. That's the soul's protective shell. Not a barrier against feeling, but a filter that keeps you grounded. This practice saved my friend Aisha during a tough season. After a painful breakup, she was drowning in anger and grief, replaying every what if. Therapy helped, but what changed her was a Stoic-inspired habit. Every time she felt overwhelmed, she'd write down the emotion and the belief behind it. I'm furious because he betrayed me became, I'm furious because I expected loyalty I can't control. That shift didn't erase the pain, but it loosened its grip. She started seeing her ex's actions as his story, not her value. Over time, her anger turned into clarity, her sadness into strength. Aisha didn't suppress her emotions. She mastered them, using reason to carve a path forward. Her soul didn't just survive. It shone brighter because of the storm. Emotional mastery isn't about being cold or detached. It's about being clear. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They felt deeply but refused to be ruled. Think of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor facing wars, betrayal, and loss, yet writing in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's not denial, it's empowerment. It's the difference between yelling in a heated argument and pausing to breathe, choosing words that heal instead of harm. I saw this in my coworker Jake, who used to snap under pressure until he started practicing Stoic techniques. Now, when stress hits, he steps back, names the feeling, "I'm anxious because this deadline feels impossible," and challenges it. Is this true, or am I catastrophizing? That pause lets him act with calm, not chaos, and his team trusts him more for it. His soul stays steady not because he's numb, but because he's learned to steer. This mastery hinges on one truth. Emotions come from our thoughts, not the world. An insult only hurts if we believe it defines us. Failure only stings if we think it's final. The Stoics taught us to question those beliefs, to hold them up to the light of reason. It's like cleaning a window smeared with dirt. Suddenly, you see clearly. When my neighbor's dog destroyed my garden, I was livid, ready to confront him. But I stopped and asked, is this worth my peace? Is my anger about the plants or my need for control? The answer shifted my perspective. I replanted, had a calm talk, and we laughed it off. My soul stayed light, not because the damage didn't happen, but because I chose how to respond. That's freedom, not escaping emotions, but deciding what they mean. In today's world, emotional mastery is a superpower. We're flooded with triggers. News cycles, social media, endless demands pulling us in every direction. Without a filter, we're at the mercy of every headline, every slight. But a soul guided by reason doesn't flinch. It pauses, reflects, chooses. It's the student who feels overwhelmed but studies anyway. The parent who soothes a tantrum with patience. The friend who forgives a careless word. These moments aren't just wins. They're investments in a soul that stays calm amid chaos, open but not overwhelmed. They build a quiet confidence, the kind that says, I can feel deeply and still stand tall. This isn't easy, it's a practice, not a switch. The Stoics didn't expect perfection. They valued progress. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose to breathe, to question, to redirect, you're strengthening your soul's shell. It's not about never feeling anger or fear. It's about feeling them without being owned by them. It's the space between stimulus and response where your power lies, where you decide who you are. And in that space, you build a soul that's not just resilient but radiant. A soul that meets life's storms with clarity, grace, and unshakable calm. Yet even a soul mastered in emotion needs to align with something greater. A harmony that ties our inner world to the rhythms of life itself. Let's explore how living in sync with nature's flow deepens our strength and sets the stage for a soul that thrives in any season. Harmony with nature, aligning the soul with life's flow. Life moves like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, always flowing forward. Yet so often we fight its current, clinging to what was or straining for what might be. The Stoics, with their clear-eyed wisdom, saw a better way. To live in harmony with nature, not as passive observers but as active participants in the universe's rhythm. This isn't about escaping to the wilderness or chasing poetic ideals. It's about embracing the logic of life, accepting change as its heartbeat, and finding our place within its vast design. To align with nature is to find peace, not by controlling the world but by flowing with it, adapting with grace, and trusting our capacity to meet whatever comes. Let's explore how this harmony strengthens the soul, offering a quiet power that anchors us in any storm and a resilience that bends but never breaks. To the Stoics, nature wasn't just trees and stars. It was the entire order of existence, from the cycles of seasons to the workings of our own minds. It's the truth that everything changes. Jobs end, relationships shift, bodies age. Fighting this truth exhausts us. Embracing it frees us. Think of a maple tree shedding its leaves each fall. Not out of defeat but in sync with the season, trusting spring will come. The Stoics urged us to live like that tree, not resenting life's shifts but seeing them as invitations to grow. I met a woman named Claire, a corporate lawyer who lost her job during a merger. At first, she was angry, terrified of the uncertainty. But instead of spiraling, she paused and asked, "What's life asking of me now?" She took up gardening, reconnected with her kids, and eventually started a small consulting firm. Claire didn't force the old path. She flowed with the new one, and her soul found peace, not in sameness but in adaptation. This harmony starts with acceptance, not resignation, but a clear-eyed embrace of what is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change," reminding us that change isn't chaos, it's creation. When we resist it, we drain our soul's energy, like swimming against a tide. But when we align with it, we tap into a strength that feels almost elemental. Picture a surfer riding a wave, not controlling it but moving with its power. That's what harmony looks like. Seeing a setback as a pivot, a loss as a lesson, a challenge as a chance to evolve. I think of my friend Sam, who was diagnosed with a chronic illness in his 30s. He could have railed against fate, but instead he adjusted, changed his diet, prioritized rest, and found joy in writing. His body had limits, but his soul grew boundless, aligned with life's flow rather than at war with it. Living in harmony also means recognizing our role in the larger tapestry. The Stoics believed we're not lone actors but threads in a cosmic weave, each with a purpose that fits the whole. A lion doesn't envy the deer. A river doesn't resent its banks. So why do we compare ourselves to others, chasing lives that aren't ours? I saw this clarity in my neighbor, Javier, a mechanic who loves his work not for glory but for its quiet necessity. He fixes cars, helps families get back on the road, and finds meaning in being useful. "This is what I'm built for," he says, and his peace radiates like a steady hum. His soul thrives because he's not fighting to be someone else. He's embracing who he is, in sync with his place in the world. This alignment isn't passive, it's active, rooted in reason and choice. To live with nature is to use our logic to understand life's patterns and our will to act within them. It's saying, "I can't stop the rain, but I can build a shelter." It's what my cousin Elena did when her small bakery struggled. Instead of clinging to old menus, she noticed her community craved healthier options. She experimented, adapted, and soon her shop was thriving. Elena didn't curse the market. She studied it, moved with it, and found joy in the dance. Her soul didn't just survive. It soared, fueled by the courage to flow rather than resist. In our modern rush, harmony can feel elusive. We're taught to conquer, to bend life to our will, new apps, new goals, new ways to hack reality. But the Stoics remind us, control is an illusion, alignment is power. When we stop fighting what is, traffic, aging, unexpected delays, we reclaim energy for what matters. It's the parent who accepts their teen's rebellion as a phase, choosing patience over panic. It's the worker who sees a layoff not as failure but as a door to something new. These aren't defeats. They're acts of harmony, moments when the soul says, "I'll work with life, not against it." And in that choice, we find a peace that's deeper than comfort, a strength that's softer than force. Harmony with nature also means trusting our resilience. Life will shift, sometimes gently, sometimes brutally, but we're built to adapt. The Stoics saw us as water, fluid, persistent, carving stone not by fighting it, but by flowing over it, day after day. When we lean into this truth, fear loses its grip. We realize that no loss is final, no change is the end. Every ending is a transition, every challenge a chance to reshape ourselves. This faith in our adaptability isn't blind. It's grounded in the soul's capacity to learn, to bend, to rise. It's what keeps us whole when the world feels fractured, steady when the ground shakes beneath us. As we align with life's flow, we discover a quiet power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that endures. It's the strength to meet change with open eyes, to find meaning in our role, to trust that we're enough for whatever comes. But to hear this truth clearly, we need to step away from the noise, to listen to the soul's deeper pulse in moments of stillness. Solitude, the soul's sacred echo. In a world that never stops buzzing, phones pinging, schedules packed, voices clamoring for our attention, silence feels like a rare gift. Yet the Stoics knew it's more than that. Solitude is a sanctuary, a space where the soul can breathe, reflect, and reconnect with its core. It's not about loneliness or hiding from life. It's about meeting yourself without distraction, stripping away the masks disguises we wear to face the world. In solitude, we confront our truths, recalibrate our compass, and rediscover what matters most. It's where we ask the hard questions. Who am I becoming? What am I avoiding? And find the courage to answer honestly. Let's explore how solitude strengthens the soul, not as an escape, but as a sacred practice that prepares us to live more fully, more truly, in the world. Solitude isn't about cutting yourself off. It's about tuning in. Seneca said, "Look within yourself. Everything that you want, you already are." And that's a call to pause, to listen to the soul's quiet voice. In our always-on culture, we're quick to fill silence with screens, chatter, or tasks. But the Stoics saw those as distractions from the real work, knowing ourselves. I think of my friend Priya, a graphic designer who hit burnout after years of hustling. She was successful by every measure, clients, awards, a packed calendar, but felt empty. On a whim, she started taking Sunday mornings alone. No phone, just a notebook and coffee. At first, it was uncomfortable. Her mind raced, guilt crept in. But over weeks, she began to hear herself again. She wrote about fears she'd ignored, dreams she'd shelved, values she'd drifted from. That solitude didn't just recharge her. It reshaped her, guiding her to a life that felt true. This kind of stillness is a mirror, showing us who we are when no one's watching. In solitude, there's no audience to impress, no role to play, just you, raw and unfiltered. It's where you face the patterns you've dodged, the anger you've buried, the ambition you've mistaken for purpose, the pain you've dressed up as strength. I saw this in my brother, Nate, who used to fill every moment with work or friends, avoiding the grief of losing our dad. One winter, he started hiking alone. No music, just the crunch of snow and his thoughts. Out there, he couldn't run from the sadness. It poured out, but so did clarity. He realized he'd been chasing distractions to avoid healing. Solitude didn't fix him. It gave him space to start, to ask, what am I carrying that I can let go? His soul grew stronger, not because the pain vanished, but because he faced it. The Stoics saw solitude as a strategy, not a retreat. It's where we sharpen our inner tools, reason, virtue, purpose, so we can return to life clearer, steadier. Think of it like a musician tuning an instrument before a performance. Without that quiet calibration, the notes ring false. I met a retired firefighter, Tom, who makes time each evening to sit on his porch. No phone, just the sunset and his breath. He reflects on his day, what he did well, where he fell short, what he'll do better tomorrow. It's my reset, he says. Keeps me honest. That ritual isn't running from the world. It's preparing him to meet it with integrity. His soul doesn't just rest in solitude. It refines itself, ready to face whatever lies ahead. Solitude also teaches us to hear what's essential. Our lives are loud with demands. Work, family, endless notifications. But in the stillness, we sift the urgent from the important. I remember a summer when I felt pulled in every direction. My to-do list a monster I couldn't tame. One evening, I turned everything off and sat by a lake, just me and the water's ripple. At first, my mind buzzed, but then it settled. I realized I was chasing approval, not meaning. That quiet hour didn't solve my problems, but it gave me perspective. What could wait, what deserved my heart? Solitude isn't emptiness. It's a space where truth rises, where the soul whispers what the world drowns out. This practice isn't about hours of isolation. It can be minutes stolen in a busy day. It's the teacher who closes her classroom door at lunch to breathe and reflect. It's the parent who wakes early to journal before the kids stir. It's the moment you pause in a hectic afternoon and ask, what's driving me right now? These slivers of stillness are sacred, not because they're grand, but because they're honest. They're where you meet your potential and your flaws, your dreams and your fears, and choose who you're becoming. The Stoics knew that without this pause, we risk living reactively, shaped by noise instead of truth. In a culture that equates busyness with worth, solitude is radical. It's a rebellion against the idea that we're only valuable when producing, performing, connecting. But the Stoics remind us, a soul that never pauses can't grow. Solitude is where we reclaim our direction, our clarity, our power. It's not about disconnecting from life, but reconnecting to what makes it worth living. When we sit with ourselves, we learn to trust our inner voice, to carry our truths with quiet confidence. And that confidence becomes a flame, steady and bright, lighting our way through the world's chaos. As we nurture this connection to our soul, we begin to see that solitude isn't an end. It's a beginning. It prepares us to live with purpose, to align our actions with a deeper calling that gives life meaning. Purpose, the soul's North Star. In the swirl of daily life, bills, deadlines, endless to-dos, it's easy to feel like we're drifting, moving without direction. The Stoics, with their grounded wisdom, knew this drift could dim the soul, scattering its energy across fleeting distractions. Their antidote? Purpose. A clear, steady beacon that lights the way, not with grand ambition but with quiet intention. Purpose isn't about changing the world or chasing fame. It's about knowing why you rise each morning, what makes your efforts matter, and how your smallest actions ripple into meaning. It's the North Star that guides the soul through fog, giving coherence to your choices and weight to your days. Let's explore how purpose anchors us, transforming routine into ritual and existence into a life deeply lived, one deliberate step at a time. The Stoics believed every soul has a unique design, a role woven into the fabric of the universe. Epictetus asked, "Is it possible that the sun should do the work of the rain?" A reminder that our purpose isn't borrowed from others but rooted in who we are. This doesn't mean you need a corner office or a viral TED Talk. Purpose is simpler, closer, found in the way you show up, the values you honor, the difference you make where you stand. I think of my friend Leah, a barista who treats every customer like they're the only one in the room. She remembers names, listens to stories, and offers smiles that brighten rough mornings. It's just coffee, she laughs, but it's more. She's building connection, one cup at a time. Her soul shines because she's found meaning in the ordinary, a purpose that doesn't need applause to feel true. Purpose gives the soul its spine. Without it, effort becomes noise, and life feels like a checklist. But with it, even the mundane transforms. Consider a janitor named Ray, who I met at a local school. He didn't just clean hallways. He greeted kids with high fives, checked in with teachers, and kept the place humming with pride. "This school's my home," he said, "and these kids deserve a place that feels safe." Ray's purpose wasn't glamorous, but it was profound. It turned his work into devotion, his routine into legacy. The Stoics would nod in approval, seeing his consistency as a lighthouse, steady, guiding, illuminating not just his path but others too. Purpose doesn't shout. It glows, quietly aligning your actions with what feels right. This alignment brings clarity in chaos. When life throws curveballs, a job loss, a health scare, a dream deferred, purpose keeps you grounded. I saw this in my cousin Mia, who always wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford med school. Instead of giving up, she became a community health worker, teaching families about nutrition and care. "I'm still helping people heal," she says, and her smile radiates resolve. Her purpose didn't hinge on a title. It flowed from her desire to serve. The Stoics taught that purpose isn't a destination but a practice, a daily choice to lean into what matters. For Mia, every workshop she leads, every family she helps, is a step toward a life that feels whole, a soul that stands tall. Purpose also shields us from comparison's trap. In a world of curated feeds and highlight reels, it's easy to feel less than, to chase someone else's path. But the Stoics remind us, your purpose is yours alone. It's not about outshining others. It's about being true to yourself. I think of Javier, a retiree who volunteers at a food bank. He doesn't care that others his age are traveling or golfing. He finds joy in packing boxes, knowing he's easing someone's hunger. "This is my lane," he says, and that clarity frees him. His soul doesn't waver because he's not measuring it against anyone else's. It's guided by a star only he can see. Purpose lets us say no to distraction and yes to conviction, rooting us in a quiet confidence that's stronger than envy. This doesn't mean purpose is fixed or fully known. It evolves like seasons. What lights you up at 20 might shift by 40, and that's okay. The Stoics valued adaptability, finding meaning in the moment you're in, not the life you planned. I met a woman named Tara, who spent years climbing the corporate ladder only to feel empty at the top. In her 50s, she started mentoring young women, sharing lessons she wished she'd learned. "This feels like what I'm here for," she told me, her eyes bright with discovery. Her purpose didn't arrive in a lightning bolt. It unfolded through reflection, trial, and courage to change course. The soul thrives when we listen to its whispers, trusting that meaning can bloom in any season. Purpose transforms work into worship, discipline into joy. It's the teacher grading papers late because she believes in her students. It's the parent cooking dinner, tired but present, because family matters. It's the artist sketching in obscurity, driven by love for the craft. These acts aren't chores. They're offerings to a higher self, declarations of what you stand for. When you know your why, obstacles become stepping stones, and effort becomes sacred. Purpose doesn't erase hardship. It gives you a reason to endure, a light to follow when the path grows dim. It's the soul's North Star, not because it's unreachable, but because it's always there, guiding you home. Yet no soul finds its purpose in isolation. Our deepest meaning often emerges through others, the connections that challenge, shape, and reflect who we are. Let's turn to the mirror of relationships, where the soul is tested and refined in the crucible of human bonds. Relationships, the soul's mirror. We're born for connection, not as an afterthought but as a necessity, woven into the very fabric of our being. The Stoics, those masters of inner strength, saw relationships not as distractions but as mirrors, reflecting our virtues, our flaws, and our growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee," a reminder that our souls don't thrive alone. They're shaped by how we love, forgive, and stand steady amidst others' storms. Relationships test us like nothing else. They spark joy, ignite frustration, break our hearts, and mend them again. Through compassion, patience, and respect, they polish the soul, revealing who we are and who we're becoming. Let's explore how relationships refine us. Not as burdens, but as sacred arenas where our character is forged, our humanity deepened, and our souls made whole. Relationships are where theory meets reality. It's one thing to read about patience. It's another to practice it when a friend snaps at you, or a coworker takes credit for your work. These moments aren't setbacks, they're invitations to grow. I think of my friend Sophia, who cared for her aging father through years of dementia. Some days he didn't recognize her. Others, he lashed out in confusion. It would have been easy to pull away, but Sophia stayed, reading to him, holding his hand, finding glimmers of connection. "He's still my dad," she said, tears in her eyes. That choice wasn't just love. It was courage, justice, wisdom, all at once. Her soul grew stronger, not despite the pain but because she met it with grace. The Stoics would see her as a warrior, her heart a battlefield where virtue triumphed. This refining isn't always gentle. Relationships expose our shadows, the impatience we hide, the pride we deny. I saw this in myself during a rough patch with my sister, Emma. We argued over something small, but it snowballed, each of us digging in. I wanted to win, to be right, but the Stoic in me paused. Is this about truth or ego? That question stung. I realized I wasn't fighting for justice, I was guarding my pride. So I called her, apologized, and listened. It wasn't easy, but it mended us. That moment wasn't a loss. It was a gain, a chance to soften my edges and strengthen my soul. Relationships don't just show us who we are. They challenge us to be better, to choose humility over hubris, understanding over anger. Compassion is the soul's bridge in these connections. It's not about fixing others' pain or absorbing it. It's about seeing them clearly, flaws and all, and choosing kindness anyway. I met a teacher, Mr. Brooks, who had a student, Tyler, who disrupted class daily. Instead of punishing him, Mr. Brooks talked to him, learned about his struggles at home, and gave him small responsibilities, erasing the board, passing out papers. Tyler's behavior shifted, not overnight, but steadily. Mr. Brooks didn't just teach math, he showed Tyler he mattered. That compassion wasn't weakness. It was strength, a choice to build rather than break. The Stoics would call this justice, treating others not as they act but as they're capable of being. It's fuel for the soul, a reminder that our humanity grows when we lift others up. Respect, too, anchors relationships. It's not blind agreement but a commitment to honor others' worth, even when we disagree. I think of my colleague, Amina, who navigates a diverse team with wildly different views. During heated debates, she listens deeply, acknowledges each perspective, and keeps the focus on solutions. Everyone's got a piece of the truth, she says. That respect doesn't dilute her strength. It amplifies it, creating trust where division could reign. Her soul stays steady because she's not fighting to dominate. She's working to connect. The Stoics saw this as dignity, holding your ground while valuing others, a balance that keeps the soul clear and unshaken. Relationships also teach us boundaries, not walls but lines drawn with care. The Stoics valued connection but warned against losing yourself in it. I learned this with a friend, Ryan, who often leaned on me during crises. At first, I gave endlessly, but it drained me. So I set limits, still there but not at my expense. Ryan respected it, and our friendship deepened, built on mutual care, not obligation. That boundary wasn't rejection. It was self-respect, a stoic act of temperance that kept my soul whole. Relationships thrive when we're present but not consumed, open but not emptied. These bonds, messy, beautiful, challenging, are where the soul does its deepest work. Every argument resolved, every kindness offered, every silence held builds character. They're not distractions from growth, they're its crucible. When we navigate them with compassion, respect, and boundaries, we don't just strengthen our connections. We forge a soul that's resilient, radiant, and true. It's in the mirror of others that we see our reflection most clearly, and in choosing how to respond, we shape a self we're proud to carry. But even a soul lit by purpose and refined by relationships needs discipline to stay true, a steady hand to guard its light against life's temptations. Discipline, the soul's armor. In a world brimming with distractions, endless notifications, instant pleasures, the pull of comfort, it's easy to stray from who we want to be. The Stoics, those timeless guides of inner strength, saw this temptation not as a flaw but as a test, a chance to forge something stronger. They called discipline the soul's armor, not a cage to trap us, but a shield to protect us, a steady hand that keeps us true when life tempts us to falter. Discipline isn't about perfection or punishment. It's the bridge between knowing what's right and doing it, the quiet resolve that turns dreams into reality and values into habits. It's what guards the soul against the slow erosion of bad choices and builds a life of unshakable integrity. Let's explore how discipline strengthens us. Not through force, but through choice, crafting a soul that stands firm no matter the storm. Discipline is often misunderstood. We picture rigid schedules or joyless restraint, but the Stoics saw it as freedom, the power to shape your life rather than be shaped by it. Musonius Rufus, a lesser-known Stoic, believed self-control was the root of all virtue, the foundation that lets courage, justice, and wisdom flourish. Without it, even the best intentions fray. I think of my friend Carlos, who dreamed of writing a novel but spent years procrastinating, lured by TV binges and social media. One day, he decided enough was enough. He set a rule: 500 words every morning, no excuses. At first, it was grueling, his mind begged for distractions, but he stuck with it. Months later, he had a draft, but more than that, he had pride. "I'm not just writing," he said. "I'm proving I can trust myself." That's discipline. Not denying joy, but choosing what fuels your soul over what dims it. This armor isn't built in grand gestures. It's forged in small, repeated acts. The Stoics knew that life's temptations, laziness, indulgence, ego, are subtle, creeping in like shadows. Discipline meets them head-on, not with drama but with consistency. I saw this in my coworker, Lisa, who struggled with stress eating. She didn't overhaul her life overnight. She started small, swapping late-night snacks for a walk or a book. When cravings hit, she'd pause and ask, "Is this what I really need?" That tiny question was her shield, redirecting her toward health. Over time, her habits changed, but more importantly, her soul grew stronger, grounded in the knowledge that she could choose her path. Discipline doesn't erase urges. It teaches us to steer them, to say no to what weakens us and yes to what endures. What makes discipline so powerful is its role as a connector, linking thought to action, vision to reality. The Stoics weren't interested in lofty ideas that stayed on paper. They cared about living them. Picture a marathon runner training through winter, lacing up despite sleet and exhaustion. Each step isn't just preparation, it's a declaration. I am more than my impulses. I met a retiree, Gloria, who took up painting in her 60s. She wasn't naturally gifted, and her early work was shaky, but she showed up daily, brush in hand, studying techniques, practicing strokes. "It's not about the canvas," she told me. "It's about keeping my word to myself." Her discipline turned a hobby into art, but more than that, it sculpted a soul that radiated purpose. Every time we follow through on a workout, a promise, a value, we're not just building habits, we're building trust in ourselves. Discipline also guards against life's deeper traps. The slow drift of complacency, the allure of good enough. The Stoics warned that without self-control, we risk becoming passengers in our own lives, pulled by whims or circumstances. I think of my neighbor, Jamal, who used to spend hours gaming, letting his goals slip. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't fulfilled. Then he set boundaries, 1 hour of gaming only after working on his side hustle. It wasn't easy, his console called like a siren, but he stuck to it. Within a year, he'd launched a small business, but the real win was his confidence. "I'm not ruled by what feels good," he said. "I choose what makes me proud." That's the Stoic promise. Discipline doesn't limit you. It liberates you, freeing your soul from the tyranny of fleeting desires. This isn't about being harsh with yourself. The Stoics valued gentleness in discipline, a kind firmness that respects your humanity. It's okay to stumble, what matters is returning, choosing again. I've seen this in my own life, trying to cut back on mindless scrolling. Some nights, I'd fall into old habits, but instead of guilt, I'd reset. Tomorrow, I'll try again. That patience, rooted in purpose, builds armor that's flexible, not brittle. It's the student who studies after failing a test, the parent who apologizes after losing their temper, the dreamer who keeps pitching after rejections. These aren't failures, they're discipline in action, proof that the soul grows not through perfection but through persistence. In our instant gratification world, discipline feels radical. We're sold quick fixes, apps, hacks, shortcuts, but the Stoics remind us, there's no app for a strong soul. It's built choice by choice, moment by moment, in the quiet victories no one sees. When you say no to gossip, yes to early mornings, or pause to breathe before reacting, you're not just acting, you're becoming. Discipline is the armor that lets you walk through life's chaos with your head high, your heart steady, and your soul intact. It's the strength to be who you are, not because it's easy, but because it's true. But discipline isn't a one-time forging. It needs daily care, a rhythm of renewal to keep the soul's armor polished and strong. Let's explore how small, consistent practices breathe life into our deepest selves, day after day. Daily renewal, the soul's lifeline. The soul isn't a static thing, fixed and finished. It's a living flame, flickering with every choice, every day. The Stoics, with their practical wisdom, knew that to keep it burning bright, we must tend it constantly, not with grand rituals but with simple, deliberate acts. They saw life as a forge, each dawn a chance to shape ourselves anew, each night an opportunity to reflect and realign. Daily renewal isn't about chasing perfection. It's about showing up, preparing your mind in the morning, reviewing your heart in the evening, and trusting that repetition builds strength. It's the quiet rhythm that turns fleeting intentions into lasting character, fragile sparks into enduring light. Let's explore how these daily practices nourish the soul, creating a resilience that grows deeper with every sunrise. The Stoics approached each day with intention, like warriors readying for battle, not with fear, but with clarity. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself of life's challenges. Rudeness, setbacks, human flaws, not to dwell on the negative, but to steel his soul for what lay ahead. This wasn't pessimism. It was preparation, a way to ground himself in reality. I think of my friend Maya, a social worker who starts her day with a 5-minute ritual. She sips coffee, writes one intention, be patient, listen deeply, and breathes it in. It's my anchor, she says. Before stepping into a world of complex cases and raw emotions, she centers her soul, ensuring it's not caught off guard. That small act isn't magic. It's a lifeline, setting her course with purpose. This morning practice is about more than planning. It's about aligning. The Stoics believed the soul thrives when it's tuned to virtue, like an instrument before a song. I saw this in my uncle, Ray, a carpenter who rises at dawn to read a Stoic passage, Seneca, Epictetus, or Marcus, then jots down a question, how can I be kind today? He carries that question to his workshop, where sawdust and sweat mingle with quiet integrity. It's not about big moments, it's about small choices like fixing a client's chair for free because it felt right. His soul stays steady because he begins each day deliberately, not reacting to life but shaping it. We can all do this. A moment to breathe, to set a goal, courage in a meeting, patience with a child, and watch how it transforms the hours that follow. Evenings, for the Stoics, were just as sacred, a time to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. They reviewed their day not to judge but to learn. What went well? Where did I stumble? What can I do better tomorrow? This wasn't self-criticism, it was self-care, a way to keep the soul honest and growing. I met a nurse, Elena, who ends her shifts with a notebook, writing one success, one mistake, one goal. After a tough day, maybe a patient didn't make it, she might write, I stayed calm under pressure. I snapped at a colleague. Tomorrow I'll apologize. That ritual doesn't erase the pain, but it channels it, turning chaos into clarity. Her soul doesn't carry the day's weight. It processes it, growing lighter and stronger. This rhythm, morning readiness, evening reflection, isn't about adding burdens to an already full life. It's about creating space for the soul to breathe. In our rushed world, we're conditioned to keep moving, to fill every gap with noise. But the Stoics knew that without pause, we lose ourselves. I've tried this myself, starting with just 10 minutes at night. I'd ask, what did I learn today? What am I grateful for? At first, it felt awkward, but soon it became a sanctuary. One night, I realized I'd been hard on a friend. My reflection wasn't fun, but it led to a heartfelt apology. That small habit didn't just fix a moment. It deepened my soul, reminding me I'm a work in progress, and that's okay. Daily renewal is powerful because it's cumulative. The Stoics didn't believe in a fragile soul. They saw it as iron, tempered by repetition. Each morning you choose intention. Each evening you choose honesty. You're not just living, you're building. I think of my neighbor, Ms. Harper, who at 80 still journals daily. In the morning, she writes a gratitude, her health, her garden. At night, she notes a lesson. Patience with a rude cashier, kindness to a stranger. It keeps me young, she laughs, but it's more. It keeps her soul vibrant, a testament to the strength of consistency. Her life shows what the Stoics knew. Small acts, repeated, become mighty. This practice isn't about rigidity. Some days you'll skip it, life happens. The Stoics didn't demand perfection. They valued return. If you miss a morning, try again tomorrow. If reflection feels heavy, start small. One thought, one breath. I saw this in my student, Aiden, who struggled with anxiety. He began with a nightly note, just one sentence about his day. Over months, those sentences grew into insights, helping him face fears with calmer eyes. His soul didn't transform overnight. It deepened through repetition, proof that renewal is a journey, not a race. In a culture that glorifies hustle, daily renewal feels like rebellion, a quiet refusal to let life's chaos define you. It's the parent who wakes early to meditate before the kids stir, the worker who journals on the train, the dreamer who pauses to realign with their why. These moments aren't luxuries, they're necessities, the threads that weave a soul strong enough to carry you through doubt, loss, or triumph. The Stoics remind us, you don't need to be flawless, just faithful to your values, your growth, your truth. Each day is a forge, each choice a spark, and over time, those sparks become a flame that nothing can extinguish. This rhythm of renewal ties together everything we've explored. The soul's essence, its reason, virtue, endurance, emotional clarity, harmony, solitude, purpose, relationships, and discipline. It's the practice that makes them real, not as ideas but as a life lived deeply. The Stoics didn't promise ease, but they offered something better. A soul that's resilient, radiant, and wholly yours. So as you step into tomorrow, carry this truth. Every morning, every evening, every choice is a chance to begin again, to nurture a fire that lights not just your path but the world around you. Live accordingly and let your soul shine. We've walked a long path together, tracing the Stoic blueprint for a soul that doesn't just survive but thrives. From its essence as the seat of reason and will, fueled by the clarity of thought and the fire of virtue, to the grit of endurance and the calm of emotional mastery, we've seen how the soul grows through deliberate choice. We've learned to align with life's natural flow, to find truth in solitude, to steer by the star of purpose, and to refine ourselves in the mirror of relationships. Through discipline's steady armor and the daily renewal of small, faithful acts, we've uncovered a truth the Stoics knew well. The soul's power isn't found in fleeting wins or external praise. It's built in the quiet, consistent work of living true. This journey isn't about reaching a finish line. It's about carrying a light that grows brighter with every step, illuminating not just your life but the lives you touch. In a world that pulls us in 1,000 directions, screens flashing, pressures mounting, voices clamoring, it's easy to lose sight of this light. But the Stoics remind us, you are not the chaos around you. You are the reason that sifts truth from noise, the virtue that chooses right over easy, the endurance that rises after every fall. Your soul is a flame, tempered by struggle, polished by reflection, and kindled by purpose. It's the courage to forgive when it hurts, the patience to listen when you'd rather speak, the discipline to show up when no one notices. These aren't just actions, they're declarations of who you are, proof that you can shape a life that's not just lived but deeply felt. So how do we carry this forward in our fast-paced, modern lives? Start small. Stoicism isn't about grand gestures but daily choices. Each morning, set one intention. A moment of kindness, a pause before reacting, a step toward a goal. At night, reflect, not to judge, but to learn. Ask, what did I do well? Where can I grow? Protect your soul's space. 5 minutes of quiet, a walk without your phone, a breath to recenter. Say no to what drains you. gossip, mindless scrolling, and yes to what feeds you. A conversation that matters, a skill you're building, a value you're living. You don't need to be perfect, just present. Life isn't a race to win. It's a rhythm to join, one choice at a time. When you stumble, and you will return gently. The soul doesn't demand flawlessness. It asks for faithfulness, and that's enough. Here at ZenLight 8, we're all about sparking these truths to light your path. If this journey resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Let's keep exploring what it means to live deeply, intentionally, and true. Share your thoughts below, and let's inspire each other. Pick one word that captures your takeaway today. I'll go first. Presence. What's yours? Drop it in the comments, and let's keep this flame burning together. Until next time, keep tending your soul. It's the light that leads you home.